When we think of evil, what comes to mind? Villains, tyrants, atrocities? But what if evil isn't about monsters at all? What if it's something shaped by forces beyond our control? Something rooted in the very fabric of our society, biology, and psychology? Take a closer look, and you'll find that many of history's most notorious figures didn't see themselves as villains. In fact, they often believed they were heroes, acting in the best interest of their people, their ideology, or even the world. The line between good and evil is permeable, and almost anyone can be induced to cross it when pressured by situational forces. Philip Zimbardo. Psychologist Philip Zimbardo defined evil as the exercise of power to harm, hurt, or destroy others. Zimbardo is the psychologist who created the famous Stanford prison experiment, where college students were assigned roles as either guards or prisoners in a simulated prison environment. The study, intended to last 2 weeks, was halted after just 6 days due to the extreme and abusive behavior exhibited by the guards and the severe emotional distress experienced by the prisoners. It revealed how quickly ordinary people could adopt abusive behaviors when given power in a simulated prison environment, leading to severe emotional distress among participants and showing the profound impact of situational forces on human behavior. But let's challenge Zimbardo's definition. What if those who commit these acts do so because they believe they're creating a better world? What if, in their minds, they're the good guys? To understand this paradox, we need to delve into personality psychology. Certain traits can predispose individuals to harmful behavior, but it's not about labeling people as inherently bad. It's about how these traits interact with societal and environmental pressures. The big 5 personality traits, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, are widely recognized model for understanding human personality. These traits encompass the broad dimensions of behavior and thought patterns that shape how individuals interact with the world. In the context of the psychology of evil, certain combinations of these traits, particularly low agreeableness and high neuroticism, have been linked to more aggressive and harmful behaviors. Another trait paradigm also exists in the form of research from Paulus and Williams into the dark triad personality traits: Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. And this has provided a framework for understanding individuals more predisposed to committing harmful or evil acts. While not everyone with these traits will commit evil acts, they're more likely to engage in manipulative, self-serving, and sometimes destructive behaviors, especially in environments that reward such traits. But these traits are just a part of the puzzle. Imagine a person with these traits who's also under immense societal pressure to conform to a destructive ideology. What happens then? This is where the boundaries of good and evil blur. Personality traits, combined with external influences such as cultural norms, authority figures, or a sense of duty, can lead people to commit acts they genuinely believe are righteous. It's not about justifying these actions, but rather understanding the complexity behind them. The sad truth is that most evil is done by people who never make up their minds to be good or evil. Hannah Arendt. Now, let's examine the concept of the banality of evil, famously coined by Hannah Arendt in her commentary on the trial of one of the major Nazi organizers of the Holocaust, Adolf Eichmann. Arendt observed that Eichmann wasn't a sadistic monster, but rather a man who fell victim to a society that had inverted its moral conscience. He was swept up in a system where blind obedience to authority became the highest virtue, overriding all other moral considerations. This challenges the traditional notion of evil. Eichmann, like many others, wasn't born evil. He was shaped by the environment around him, an environment where the line between good and evil had been distorted to the point where heinous acts were now seen as moral duties. Modern research from psychologist Albert Bandura supports this idea, showing that individuals can become desensitized to violence and cruelty when these behaviors are normalized by their environment. For example, his studies on moral disengagement demonstrate how people justify harmful actions by distancing themselves from the consequences or by dehumanizing their victims. Bandura's line of research shows that people can commit evil acts by rationalizing them as justified or by shifting responsibility onto others. This process is crucial in understanding how ordinary individuals can participate in atrocities. When people dehumanize their victims, seeing them as less than human, it becomes easier to commit acts that would otherwise be unthinkable. This research highlights the psychological mechanisms that allow evil to thrive in certain conditions. Consider Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments, where participants were willing to administer what they believed were painful electric shocks to another person simply because an authority figure told them to. Milgram's work highlighted how powerful situational influences can be. When people are placed in situations where they feel pressured by authority, or when they're part of a group that normalizes harmful behavior, their moral compass can be overridden. This isn't just about individual evil, it's about the context that can make evil actions seem justifiable, even noble. So, is evil really about bad people, or is it more about the forces that shape our perceptions and decisions? The answer isn't clear-cut. It's a complex interplay of personality traits, societal norms, and situational pressures that can push someone towards actions we deem evil. I'm not satisfied with the term evil. We've inherited this word, and we use it to express our abhorrence when people do awful things, usually acts of cruelty, but I don't think it's anything more than another word for doing something bad. Simon Baron-Cohen. Clinical psychologist Simon Baron-Cohen's famous work, The Science of Evil, forces us to confront whether evil is even a valid concept. He argues that evil is really a lack or impairment of empathy, rather than a positive state or concept itself. Baron-Cohen distinguishes between two different types of empathy: cognitive empathy, which is the ability to intellectually understand someone else's situation or point of view, and affective empathy, which is the emotional response we have to the way other people think and feel. He argues that cruelty, an essential component of evil, is an expression of a lack of affective empathy. Baron-Cohen's research has shown that certain areas of the brain responsible for empathy can be suppressed or switched off under extreme conditions, such as stress, trauma, or indoctrination. When empathy is diminished, individuals are capable of actions they would otherwise consider morally reprehensible. This neurological perspective helps us understand how seemingly ordinary people can commit extraordinary acts of cruelty when their brain's empathy circuits are disengaged. So, perhaps evil isn't some special state of mind, but rather the absence of a normal and healthy psychological function such as empathy. Here we find a convergence between Baron-Cohen's work and Arendt's thesis on the banality of evil. Arendt saw Eichmann as lacking an ability to think from the standpoint of somebody else, and this is why he was able to commit such atrocities. This is what makes evil banal rather than radical, in her view. This maps on well to Baron-Cohen's work if we take Arendt to be implying an affective component in her term thinking. Both of these thinkers agree that evil can be explained by lack of empathy. Thus, the ultimate choice for a man, inasmuch as he is driven to transcend himself, is to create or to destroy, to love or to hate. Erich Fromm. Erich Fromm, a prominent social psychologist and humanistic philosopher, offered a compelling perspective on the nature of evil. Fromm argued that evil arises not from innate human instincts, but from the conditions of society and the choices individuals make in response to those conditions. He believed that destructive behavior, which he termed malignant aggression, is a result of a disconnection from one's true self and others, often fostered by oppressive social systems, isolation, and a lack of meaningful purpose. Fromm distinguished between two types of evil: benign aggression, which is defensive and rooted in survival, and malignant aggression, which is an expression of deep-seated psychological disorders. He believed that malignant aggression emerges when individuals fail to realize their potential for growth, love, and creativity. Fromm's view challenges us to see evil not as an inherent trait, but as a product of social, psychological, and existential factors, emphasizing the importance of creating a society that nurtures humanistic values and authentic connections. A small evil becomes a big one through being disregarded and repressed. The shadow is very much a part of human nature, and it is only at night that no shadows exist. Carl Jung. Carl Jung offers another perspective with his concept of the shadow, the unconscious part of our psyche that contains our darkest desires, fears, and impulses. This is the part of us which was not allowed to become a part of our normal, egoic sense of self, and therefore was pushed into the underground of the psyche to act autonomously, directing our actions beyond our own will. According to Jung, everyone has a shadow, and those who fail to acknowledge it are more likely to project it onto others, seeing them as evil. When we deny our own capacity for evil, we risk falling victim to it. Jung believed that confronting and integrating the shadow is essential for personal growth and moral integrity. By recognizing our darker impulses, we can better live with them, and thereby prevent them from manifesting in destructive and evil ways. For Jung, this is one half of the paradox of evil. The other half is explained when he said that it is quite within the bounds of possibility for a man to recognize the relative evil of his nature, but it is a rare and shattering experience for him to gaze into the face of absolute evil. Here, Jung is saying that we are perfectly capable of seeing our own shortcomings and blind spots, but to face what is truly intended by the term evil is to encounter an evil of divine proportions. Jung clearly held on to a more cosmic, even metaphysical view of evil, while also recognizing that most instances of evil are a confrontation with our own personal shadow, and well within the capacity of man to undertake. Indeed, this confrontation, though painful and difficult, is seen as a necessary step in Jung's psychology. Man's blind spots, which leave him unempathetic and prone to aggression towards others, and ultimately evil, must be recognized so as to avoid this catastrophic outcome. The psychology of evil is far more intricate than we often acknowledge. It's not merely a matter of bad people committing horrible acts. Instead, it's about unraveling the layers of influence, personality traits, cultural conditioning, and powerful situational forces that can drive individuals to actions society deems malevolent. These forces, often beyond a person's conscious control, can distort perceptions of right and wrong, leading to choices that are much more complex than simply labeling someone as evil. In the end, maybe evil isn't as evil as we think. Perhaps it's a reflection of our own vulnerabilities, our own capacity to be shaped by forces we don't fully understand. And in recognizing this, we can begin to approach the topic with more nuance, more empathy, and a deeper awareness and understanding of the human condition.